Hey there, I'm Cadence Kidwell, the proprietress here at Fuzzy Goat, and I'm just like you. I used to have a hard time finding patterns that I wanted to knit and indie yarns that were the quality that I could trust. We hear this all the time from our fuzzy fans. At the time, I wasn't located near any local yarn shops, and the yarns I was able to get just didn't feel all that great in my hands or to wear. And I didn't feel like I knew anything about where those yarns came from. And if I was going to spend so much time with the project, I wanted to feel good about the materials I was using. At that time, I even had my knitting needles raring to go. I just couldn't sort out tested patterns either that would delight me in the making. Then I discovered that if I spent enough time searching Ravelry with the right filters and then dug down into the projects that were made in those patterns, that I increased my chances of joy in the making and the wearing. I do like some challenge in my projects, but I also want to reduce my frustrations. When I did find local yarn shops that knew their dyers well, I found that my increase in the trust went up and the yarns were going to be great, and that I was also helping small makers support their lives. This was really important to me, to have my resources sustain small makers who wanted to make the world more lovely. A local yarn shop doesn't have to be physically local to you, but a small yarn shop can be focused on your experience. So a little bit about our shop, Fuzzy Goat. We've been here 10 years now, and our focus is on whimsical yarn adventures that unite us online and in our historic downtown, Thomasville, Georgia shop. We're just filled with lots of girl-made indie yarn, bags, and gifts, and we know the first names of almost all of our makers. We have tons of inspiration. We believe that knitting is fun and that good enough can sometimes apply to our knitting projects. We'll also help you make it your own if something needs tweaking. We have lots of ways to help you, even from afar, and we have a glorious community. We're also a shop that's committed to doing our part in using our powers and resources for good to promote diversity, equity, inclusion, and anti-racism. We've been lucky to work with some really, really lovely small makers on our custom projects. One of our favorites was working with Knit Collage to create a day tripper theme package that we did. Here's just one example of how we know our dyers. So Amy of Knit Collage started her business in 2010, a few years before we did, and she spent countless of hours teaching women in India without access to education how to craft the yarns on traditional spinning wheels, giving them empowerment. She now happily employs many women who she relies on for all aspects of her business, and truly each yarn is special, handcrafted with love, and when you knit with those, you're supporting the livelihood of the women who made them, as well as Amy's Boston-based small business. And we know the stories like this of, just looking at the shop, of lots of our makers. And in that package, we paired the yarns with a tested pattern that showed off the whimsy of Amy's yarns. And then we added other fun items, like our Welly mug. Eric established Welly, a company that gives clean water to people in need. His mug has a fabulous design, and he was inspired by his mom, Ellie, who was known for her social responsibility in helping others find a sense of purpose, and he named the company Welly in honor of his mom, Ellie. So we're just filled with stories like that. We love finding these makers and telling their stories, stories of makers making the world lovely. And you are adding the next chapter when you work with these materials. In my next video, I'm going to share more about how once I find the project and the yarn, I can do even more to increase my joy in the making. And though I primarily refer to knitting, I do a little crochet, and am equally curious about your experience with crochet too. So scroll down and leave a comment about what keeps you from finding the right project and yarn. I'd love to know.